Hi, this is Carl from Web Courses Bangkok, and this is lesson 9, and it's all about text. Text is one of the trickiest things in Photoshop. Reason being is it's not really made to do it. So we're going to find some nice easy ways to work with Photoshop and text. Text is very important because it's going to be part of nearly every design that you do. When you're selecting text, you've got to have the selected tool on the left hand side here. If you don't have the text tool selected, you won't be able to change it. So for example, I see a lot of people trying to have the move tool selected and then try and click on the text. It doesn't work. For me, I always press T. T is the shortcut for text. Now when you're selecting text, let me just zoom in just to show you. Again, I'm doing Control and plus and holding down space to bring myself into the right area. Okay, now you'll see as I move my cursor closer to the text, it goes into a different mode. Now the mode of the cursor tells you a lot about what you're able to do. Now for example, if I click here now, I will make a new layer, and that's actually not what I want. So when you're selecting text, you must click on the text. Now if you ever do this and you accidentally do start a new layer and you don't want to, simply press escape. Easy peasy. Great, so now I'm going to click inside the text and I can now select it. I can select part of it, I can select all of it, but a nice easy way to do it is Control and A. Now what we need to do is change the size from 24 to 36, and that's really easy. Just go to the drop down at the top, 36, and done. Once you finish editing your text, you need to get out of the text tool. You can do that in two ways. You can click on the tick at the top here, or you can do Control and Enter. Personally, I always do Control and Enter. It's just so much easier. Now let me go back into editing text and show you what happens if you don't do that. Well, first of all, none of these work anymore. You can't undo, you can't step backwards, you can't save, all these different things. So like I said, when you finish playing with your text tool, Control and Enter, or Command and Enter if you're on a Mac. What we're going to do is we're going to bold the we, then we're going to put love in red and Photoshop in blue. So again, we need to select the text that we want, and this time I'm just going to highlight we. And then I'm going to go to the top here and just go to bold. Now just be warned, some fonts have bold text, some don't, so it depends on the font that you're using. We're using Arial and that has just about everything. The next thing we want to do is change the color. Now I can just double click and select the word that I want. I'm going to go to the top here and I'm going to select the color red. Click OK and I'm done. Next thing we want to do is Photoshop. Again, I'm going to double click in the middle, just a quick way of selecting the word, and then I'm going to select blue. But this time I'd like to use the same blue as the one on the left. So I'm going to move my cursor over as we saw before, and we're going to use a color picker to choose exactly the same color. Click OK, and I'm just going to click in the middle just so I can see those colors. Brilliant. And now to finish what I'm doing, Control and Enter. Next we're going to change the font. Now changing a font in Photoshop is a little bit easier if you know a little bit of a trick. So first of all, select your text. Second of all, Control and A to select your text. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click to the right here, not the drop down here, because I can see the font that I want. However, normally it's nice to sort of cycle through them. So I'm going to click to the right so it goes blue. If it doesn't, just select Arial again and it'll go blue. Okay? Now once it's done that, you can now press the down key and just quickly go through all your different fonts. And this is really, really useful. Oh, and a little tip from me, because I personally did this wrong recently, don't install too many fonts. The reason being is because when you're launching Photoshop and you've got say 2,000 fonts, it takes ages to load. So my advice is only use the fonts that you need. The one that we need right now is going to Times New Roman, which I know is all the way down here. And as you can see, I installed way too many fonts, and I'm just going to look for Times New Roman, and there it is. Great, so now I've changed the font. And again, what I need to do is finish what I'm doing by doing Command and Enter or Control and Enter. Great, done. Now that we've been playing with single bits of text, we now want to start playing with some of the paragraphs. I'm going to open up the paragraphs folder just so that when I make a new layer it will go on top of this one. Now let me zoom in a little bit. As you can see, we need to copy a little bit of lorem ipsum into here. So first of all, when you're doing multiple lines of text in Photoshop, you use a text box. You first have your text tool selected, and then you simply click and drag a box, and this is called the bounding box. This is where all the text will appear. Now it's normally a good idea to make sure that you've got the right size, shape and color before pasting. I often see people pasting in text when it's white and think, well, it hasn't worked. Right, now we need to get some text. Now today what we're going to be using is a little bit of vegan ipsum, and you can find that at veganipsum.com. If you want the normal variety, you can always try going to lipsum.com/feed/html. So we're going to be using vegan ipsum today. Great. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say maybe 2 paragraphs, and I'm just going to copy this one here. Right click and copy. So we go back to Photoshop now, and now we're ready to paste in here. And you can do this a number of ways. You can right click and paste, but my favorite is Control and V, which gives you the text instantly. Now the nice thing is you can always change the size of the text, and as you can see it only displays on inside the box, so even if you've got extra text it isn't shown. So you just move that over, and this is where you can actually change things. Again, it's the same idea. If I want to finish what I'm doing, Control and Enter. To get back, I simply click. Again, Control and A allows me to select everything, and I can quickly change the color, the shape, the size, the font, or anything I want. Great. Control and Enter, and there we are. Now we want to change a number of different things about this. Well, first of all, I want to know how I can delete it. There's 2 ways of doing it. I can quickly hit delete. I'm just going to do Control and Z, or I can right click on the layer and delete the layer. So it's very easy to actually delete anything, but the important thing is you must have the layer selected. So I'm just going to zoom out. So the next thing we need to have a look at doing is changing the text area line height to 24 pixels and justifying it. Great. So all I need to do now is go into this text area here, Control and A, because if I don't do Control and A, I'm going to have bits of the text that aren't justified, aren't Lucida Sans, etc. Right, so now that we've got this selected, all we need to do is change the line height. So I'm going to just do Control and A, and now I need to go to character. Now character's just here on the right hand side. If you don't have this, go to Window and then you'll see character here. When you're here, you've got a number of different things you can change, one of them being the line height, or it's called leading. So I'm just going to click on there, and we're going to change that to 24. But now we want to justify it. We want to make sure it's on the right hand side. To do that, we need paragraph. I select the paragraph, and again, if you don't have it, it's under Window, Paragraph. So to justify it all, I move over right to the right hand side, and I click on that, and as you can see it's justified it perfectly. Command and Enter to finish what I'm doing. Brilliant. Next we're going to use our justify all for a little bit of a tip. So I'm going to hold down Control, I'm going to come down to my navigation bar here. Now this is what we're aiming for on the left hand side. We want it perfectly spaced right inside the navigation bar. Now this tip only works if you've got one word. So when you're choosing a navigation, try and just choose it with one word, and then this tip will work perfectly. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to move over and we're going to do our box again. Now something that might help is if you have the grid on. So just go to View, Show, Grid. And the grid can be very, very helpful. Example, I can just grab the box just like this, and I know that it's pretty much well spaced. Okay, so now I'm just going to put Home, About, and as you can see it's being a little bit weird. So I'm just going to do Control and A and align it to the left. We'll do the justify in just a moment. So all I did was I created my box, I added Home and About, and then I aligned it to the left. So clicking after about there, I've got services, portfolio, and contact. So now I've got this here, but they're not spaced out. So the way I space it out is I highlight all with Control and A. I go to the top right hand corner and paragraph panel, and I click on Justify All, and there it is. Perfect. Last thing I need to do is change the text color to white. Click OK, and then as you can see, it's worked perfectly. Control and Enter, and there you go. And if you want to hide all the grid and things like that, Control and H, and there it is. A perfect navigation that's nicely aligned. Now, if you do want to use two words, let me show you how you do it. I'm going to zoom right in for this bit. Hold down Control. There we go. So, click on there, and I'm going to do space us. Now again, we don't want this space here, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put them back together, and then I'm going to highlight the U. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the character spacing between them. Click on character, click on spacing here, and then just increase it. Now as you can see, the U's being pushed over like that. Okay, so let me go back to 0. When you're doing this, always select the letter just before the one that you want to space out, so it's the T. So if I select this one, you can see it pushes the S over. So always do the last letter of the word you want to push away. So again, I'm just going to move this up to say 25. It's not enough. 75, still not enough. 200, that's more like it. And you can go even further if you want. To do that nice and easily, just highlight the T, highlight the text, and then just drag it over, and there it is. Perfect. Control and Enter, Control and minus, and there you have it. Well, I hope that helped, because text is definitely one of the most difficult ones, but once you master it, it's something you can do really, really quickly. So that's everything for lesson 9, which was all about text. Text is one of the most tricky ones to play with Photoshop, but with those couple of tips, couple of tricks, I'm hoping that you'll create some really, really nice text effects. And if you want to know any more information about any of the courses, like the Photoshop course or the web design course, then go to www.webcoursesbangkok.com. Thanks. Bye.